What's up, everyone? This is Scott. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm driving in a truck, so it's a little loud today. The quality may not be that great, but if it's not too annoying for you, I'll try to just give some things that are on my mind, and maybe they help you, maybe they don't. But, it is what it is. So, the purpose for this video is something that I'm just driving to Sherwin-Williams and another paint store locally to pick up some paint for a project. And I like to take a back road instead of the main highway if I've got a little time. And the reason being is sometimes I can just think more clearly on these back roads, these country roads, than I would be on a highway. Plus it's more scenic and beautiful. Out here in the Pacific Northwest today, it's a little chilly last night, but it's warming up. And I got a little late start today because my back is killing me. And wanted to get out the door earlier, but it just didn't happen. So anyways, long story short, I'm going to pick up some paint for this project, and I'm thinking in my mind, I'm always thinking about our time and how we trade time for money. And you hear these terms thrown around online quite often about financial freedom and people escaping the rat race and all this stuff. And I like to be an observer, right? I follow a lot of painting forums where I know a lot of people from a distance. Maybe I don't have a personal connection with them or know them as a friend, but on these forums I've seen a lot of their content. A lot of them are selling courses or seminars, and they have a track record of either creating second businesses with a successful painting business, such as like a software company, or they've scaled their business with multiple people to like 7 or 8 figures. These guys have figured it out. And I think when I look at this from a distance, a lot of these guys are good-hearted dudes. Like, they have been through the ups and downs of building their business. And when you start a business as a service-based business, let's just use painting as an example, I feel like a lot of people, if you look at the statistics, a lot of painting business owners, quote-unquote business owners, are more just solo operators. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're not really a true business if the owner and operator is doing everything. Because who are you going to sell your business to at the end of when you're ready to hang up the towel and retire? Like, I've had people approach me, these like really old dudes, at a bar or whatever, that tell me, hey, I've been staining decks and painting in this area since the 80s, and I used to have 40 people on payroll for 1 year, and I made this much in that 1 year, but I didn't, running a company and dealing with that many people was not my strong point, so now I just have a few helpers, or it's just me. It's not an easy task to manage a lot of people. So a lot of people say, oh, employees suck, I'm not even going to scale my business, because especially in the service industry and the trades, it's hard work. And even if you find and develop people, you can invest in these people, you never know when they're going to leave. So I think a lot of these guys that have become super successful, the way that they look at it is, instead of me pointing fingers at everybody else in the workforce and saying that everybody has no work ethic and nobody wants to work, and these young kids are lazy, they say, well, why don't I look at it and put myself in their shoes? If I was a millennial or a Zoomer or a Gen X or whatever you want to call them, and these people are applying for a job as a painter, which is very manually intensive, right? Unless you're a crew lead or a supervisor or an estimator, where you're just managing the crew, you're not doing a lot of the physical work. The actual painters get the short end of the stick. Some people enjoy it, right? But to be a 9-to-5er and show up and just break your back all day long, there's days where I paint and I'm doing the physical labor, which I do most of the time in my situation, and there's days where it's easy. Like one of my favorite jobs is the small to mid-sized jobs, because psychologically, for whatever reason, I get a higher profit margin on smaller jobs. So if I come in there and I bid a small deck that I know I can get done in a day or 2 or 3 days max, I can price it, at a price point where, as a flat rate bid for this amount to stain your deck with all stain materials and labor to sand it, to clean it, to stain it, we're coming in at this price, right? And I know based on my experience and my method of how fast I can get that done, that in most cases, I'm going to make a higher averaged hourly rate, because I've got a system in place. I've done thousands of decks, right? And I know how to get through these decks fast and effectively. And the people that are hiring me, it's not rocket science, but they don't have the time and they don't have the desire to learn how to do it properly. They'd rather just hire somebody else. And that's where a professional will come in, and you do what you do best. You do it fast, efficiently. You get in, you get out, you get your money. And you're going to get paid more than a 9 to 5 if you become a specialist at something, or highly effective and efficient at something. So the point of this story and where I'm going with this is, a lot of people stay solo operators and they're like, well, it's easier, it's less stressful. And to some extent it is, because you don't have the higher overhead to manage and deal with all these people. You don't have the coming and going. In a lot of cases, you've got to get workers' compensation, right? If you've got 40 people on payroll, I've talked to some guys where they were all employees, right? 40 people on payroll, or 30 to 40, whatever you want to call it, that are actual actual employees, not subcontractors, 1099. You have to pay workers' compensation on them. And if you're paying workers' compensation on them, he told me he was paying $20,000 a month just for workers' compensation. That does not also include your payroll taxes. So if you have an actual legitimate business and legitimate employees, and you're not only paying the workers' compensation, but your payroll taxes as an employer generally, I think, is about 50%. So whatever they owe as an employee, you're as an employer paying about half their taxes. They pay the remaining half, right? So that's a lot of money to be coming out, and that's not even under the assumption that they're even, number one, you even priced your work appropriately to be profitable, and number two, if you are, let's say you priced it very high and very profitable, but the people that are showing up are not effective, they're not good workers, they're lazy, they're not showing up, you still have to cut that bill for the workers' compensation on a monthly basis. So either way, you have the overhead that you've committed to. And so, as if it's not hard enough to run a business and be profitable, now you've got all this overhead to deal with too. Now, on the flip side of that, and looking at this in a positive light, if your jobs are profitable and you do develop a successful team, you can make good money, right? If you're average hourly, I'm just putting out an arbitrary number. Let's say that you're per man hour, you want to make $100 an hour, right? For whatever you do in your service-based business. That's what you're aiming for. Sometimes you make more, sometimes you make less, because you're not charging an hourly rate. Otherwise, you're creating a high-paying job for yourself. You're charging flat rate and getting shit done as fast as humanly possible so that your hourly goes up. I've had deck stains where I've bid something and I've gone in there and cleared 200 plus an hour, because and the homeowners probably know that, and if anybody ever gives you backlash about it, the only people that are going to give you backlash are people that are brokies. They're going to be middle class or like lower middle class people that think that they can afford to hire a painter, but in reality they should be spending their weekend away from their 9 to 5 doing the painting themselves because they can't afford it. Or you need to be shopping on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for the unlicensed painter that's a meth head or an alcoholic, or that's showing up with like blistered red eyes, it's high as a kite, and does a really half-assed job, and everybody's unhappy at the end of it, and he wants cash because he's not paying his taxes. Those are the people that work for the brokies and the middle class, okay? But if you want a legitimate business and you want legitimate high-end clients, then you should be charging a premium to be profitable. And the few times maybe I have had backlash when I was starting out and I was trying to get a base of good, wealthy employees that are happy to cut the check, which I don't get all the time, but now it's like 3/4 of my clients are like that, and not like a quarter when I started out. Those people are happy to cut the check, right? And they know that in order to run a business, because they're either business owners themselves or they're high-paid professionals, they're retired with investments, they understand the value of leverage, time, and money. So I'm dropping in on and touching on two different subjects here. But the primary emphasis and point of this video is that in order to get ahead in life financially, you have to, like, the system is designed to keep us down, to keep us wage slaves. And if you are a 9-to-5er, I don't mean that in any disrespect, because I was a 9-to-5er for the majority of my life and always did painting seasonally around college or around my other full-time white-collar jobs, because I knew I'd make more money doing that. Even if I came in at half the rate as somebody else, if somebody's cutting me a check with no taxes and a majority of my income, like 80% of my income or 90 is derived from my 9-to-5, yeah, cut me a check, Venmo me, give me some cash, because for me to go in and get time and a half of my employer and have the government steal half my money for taxes on overtime, it's like, okay, I might as well just not even work the overtime because I'm not making that much more anyways, right? So, but here's the dilemma. You can have no employees, you can pocket all that profit all you want, but the minute your back hurts like mine does today, right, and I'm delayed in going to work, I lost a couple hours of profit. If I don't have a helper there, whether he's an employee or a subcontractor making me money, the minute that you get physically hurt, or you have to take a day off for an appointment, or your kids are sick, or some emergency happens, your income stops. You could be on a job painting a house, and the minute you run out of paint, you have to drive to the paint store, and let's say that burns an hour and a half or 2 hours out of your day between drive time, pickup, and returning to that job site, you just lost 2 hours of profit. Okay, not a big deal, right? But let's say that happens 15 times in a month. Now you've lost several days of potential income and labor as a solo operator. So what a lot of people need to understand, in my opinion, is that yes, it's challenging to scale a business, and I'm not saying it's cut out for everybody. I personally don't want to scale at this point in my life. I may change my mind, but at this point in my life, I have no desire to physically scale my painting business with tons of employees. And the reason being is I live in a seasonal state, and I have my own reasons, okay? But everybody, if I wanted to get ahead and I said, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet, I'm going to scale my business, if I did that, I would get ahead in 1 year. I would have thousands of dollars tucked away in my savings account, and tax money, and discretionary spending money, and money for retirement, if I bit the bullet and took the risk and said, I'm going to scale it, I'm going to develop these guys, and I'm going all in. So there's benefits to doing it, and there's drawdowns to doing it. But leveraging your time for money can also be done in other ways. And I'll give you another example. So some of these guys that I follow that have successful painting businesses, and they're making $3.5 million a year, $20 million a year. Some of these guys are $100 million a year, right? They're just massive entities, and they're just killing it. That is great. That's wonderful, and they have a lot of cash flow, and they've got branding dialed down. But it's a service business, which means it's not automated. You can't automate a service business. It requires manpower, okay? You have to have somebody that's selling the work, somebody that's managing the operations and the crew, and somebody that's physically doing the operations, such as the painters and the general laborers, okay? And then you've got people dealing with marketing, with sales, okay? You've got, and if you get to a point where you scale your business and you systemize it enough, you can designate maybe a CEO or, a crew lead that can basically do everything for the company, and you're stepping off, and you can afford to do so, to step off and take a slight company ownership dividend or percentage of that company. But to get to that point, you have to take a lot of risk and go through a lot of trial and error and lose profit and lose bodies and establish your branding and get your price point down and deal with the seasonality and figure out how much you should be investing in marketing and how often, and collect data on where are the pain points in my company, where are we making the most profit, what should I be allocating my money towards. So this all takes experience, it takes time, it takes money. It's going to wear on you physically and mentally. It's going to age you. But if you can get through it, you can stick with it, you can make a lot of money. Now, on the flip side of that, and this is one of the things I've been looking into, some people are great craftspeople and they need more money or they want more money, but they're like, but at the same time, I don't want to scale my business. I'm not cut out to be a leader of developing people. I just need to find a way to make more money because painting by myself pays the bills, but I'm not really getting ahead. And that's where you can look into, in my recommendation, which nobody's talking about this, right? I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about it. And I run a painting business. But we're going into, I like to observe everything from a distance and look at multiple perspectives. And the way I look at this is that we're coming into an age and an era of social media and what I call, and other people call, digital assets. So digital real estate, right? Take, for example, this video, right? I genuinely like to help people out. I'm a philanthropist. I've had jobs where I've underbid so bad I've barely made minimum wage. I've had times where I have made really good profit. I've had people take advantage of me, subcontractors. I've had homeowners take advantage of me, and I've had homeowners that have given me gifts from my kids and given me tips and paid me very profitably. So you're gonna have a lot of ups and downs, but where I'm coming from with this is that for me to videotape this video, right? And for me to allocate the time to videotaping this, I'm driving into the paint store. Whether I videotape this or not, I still have to drive to the paint store and get this stuff for the job, okay? And theoretically, I should have bid this on the front end and been compensated for this time. Now, by me filming this video and giving you guys some insight, I'm not charging you anything for this, right? I'm just giving out free content because I enjoy doing it. Now, someday, you know, with the way YouTube works, if you get enough subscribers, if you can monetize your channel and get a source of cash flow. Will that happen? I don't know. You know, these are pretty raw videos. I'm not the type of guy to put up like a custom thumbnail with some stupid looking face on it just to get clicks and views, right? I try to be down to earth and real. This is real talk. And if it resonates with people and they enjoy the content or they can take some type of value from it, maybe they'll subscribe, right? And if you get to a point where somehow I can get monetized off this, then great. You know, that helps my kids, that helps my wife. She homeschools the kids with one income, and and I'm painting, so that's a second source of income. It's the same. And what, at the end of the day, what did it take me? 20 minutes of recording a video while I'm driving, and that video is up there to stay on YouTube forever, unless YouTube decides to go out of business or take down my video for whatever reason. But by establishing videos and creating online content, whether you're selling courses or you're creating online content or you're selling merchandise and products or courses or whatever, consulting, it doesn't matter, there's still opportunity. And what did it cost me? It cost me nothing. YouTube is free to create a channel, right? So if you're another tradesperson, if you're into side hustles, whatever your passion is, maybe you're into day trading, maybe you're into history, there's so many things. You could just travel and have a passion for traveling. You know, there's people that know how to fix RVs, and they're average people. They just, normal 9-to-5ers, and they decided to live on an RV full time and travel around the world or the U.S. And they start figuring out how to repair things in the RVs, and they're just like, hey, we're gonna put some free content up to help other RVers that are just downsizing and living a minimalist type of lifestyle. And they got enough subscribers where they're making probably what a typical average median salary would be for a teacher in the U.S. in an average year. They're making passively off YouTube, right? So I'm not saying you have to do that. Maybe you're not even good on camera, and maybe that makes you uncomfortable. But you could do a faceless YouTube channel where you use like an AI voice if you don't want to film yourself. Maybe you just film yourself working. Maybe you don't put your face on camera, but you're just filming what you're doing. There's so many opportunities, okay? And I know it sounds like a pipe dream, but there's people that are selling online courses that are making 7 to 8 figures a year. So for me to make 7 to 8 figures a year, like we talked about earlier for a painting business, I have to take a massive amount of risk. I probably am going to have a fleet of trucks. I'm going to have all this overhead for workers' compensation and all these guys on payroll taxes. And if you live in a seasonal state, now you've got half the year where you're going to offer discounts and pay 3 times the amount of marketing to get the same return on that money, because everybody leaves the state to go as snowbirds to go to their other house in California or Florida, so they don't have to deal with the winter. And you're trying to keep a whole crew busy and yourself and be profitable, which means you have to work twice as hard in half the amount of time, make a full year's salary in 6 to 7 months, in half a year, and then you've got all that overhead on top of that. It's already hard enough as is if you're a solo operator. But if you're trying to do that with a whole crew with a bunch of overhead on top of that, man, you better be like all in, just savage, like whatever it takes to sell that work, even if you're breaking even to keep those guys on payroll, and hopefully you've had enough to pay for your own personal expenses to float through the winter. So the moral of the story, I'm now 20 minutes in. I don't know what the quality's like on this video. I'm kind of rambling, but if you're still with me and you understand where I'm coming from, if there's anything that you can take from this video of me rambling on, it would be this. The key to getting ahead, whether you've achieved it or not, does not matter. I just think that you need to recognize if your end goal is to get financially free or build your income so you're not as stressed out given the fact that everything is becoming ridiculously expensive. You don't want to be a slave. Nobody wants to be paycheck to paycheck. We all want a nice dinner. We all want to be able to drop money without wondering what's in my bank account, right? Or saying, oh, you know, within my budget I only have like 20 bucks left to spend, I need to get paid again. That's a really terrible situation to be in, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good for your ego. I have kids that are always asking for toys, and I make sure not to spoil them, but sometimes, it makes me feel bad if, I'm a one-income father, so I'm doing the best I can. I'm still hustling, I'm still doing whatever I can to make some money, but you can only physically do so much in a day, and unless you leverage that time for money, such as getting employees or hiring subcontractors or offering digital assets such as online content, or you're buying into investments that pay a dividend in real estate, and not everybody is in a position, especially these days, to be like, here's several $1,000s, like to buy land out here where I live, it's like a half acre is like at least $100,000, right? And if your intention is to buy that and flip it, and you're in the land game, you got to hold on to it for a few years. So, do you have $100,000 to just buy a piece of land and sit on it for 5 or 10 years and flip it for a profit? That's the game of real estate, right? And yeah, there's ways to hack it, but at the end of the day, it takes money to make money. And the reason I started this service-based business is because that is one of the fastest ways to make money when you don't have money. Because I know that I have to trade my time for money, but at least I know that I'm a skilled expert in my field and in my craft. I can stain decks better than a majority of painters out here. There's painters out here that call themselves painters, but they don't know how to refinish a deck properly. And if I can, I do paint homes, but I'm starting to specialize more in the deck restoration aspect of work, because there's a lot of decks out here that need to be refinished. They need to be generally refinished faster than a paint job needs to be repainted. So it's a maintenance thing where I can come back and be restaining people's decks every year or two. So you get repeat clientele. Most of them are small to mid-sized jobs, which means you get a higher profit margin because psychologically it's a lower amount to the homeowner. And if you're doing it fast and you're getting in 2 or 3 days, you're walking out with some profit, right? But if you have a job that takes you an entire month, you're doing everything on your own, and you have a whole week of rain, right? Now you're bouncing around other jobs, you're losing profit. So what I've found is focusing on small to mid-sized jobs, high profit margins, focus on something that has a repeat clientele, and getting as most amount of money that I possibly can within that hour or within that day's worth of labor or scope of work is my end goal. But even that requires my physical time away from my family. So if you want to break free from the chains of, just living paycheck to paycheck, always being like, oh, I need a week off for my health or my family, but then you come back, you're working twice as hard to make up that week that you lost profit for. What's the point, right? You're just destroying yourself. So if there's anything that you could take from this, I implore people to research leveraging time for money and think outside of the box. Just because you're a painter or just because you're a lawn care provider or a handyman and you know another guy that created a 7 or 8 figure business and franchised it, doesn't mean you have to do that. Okay, there's so many different ways to make money these days. If that drives you, and if you want to get your hands dirty in the business every day and be dealing with a lot of people, and that drives you and gives you energy, then that's awesome. Like, more power to you. But if your end goal is maybe lower stress levels but more income, Maybe managing 40 people isn't your cup of tea. Maybe it's a better approach for you to try to establish and build a brand online, or to sell a product or sell a course with your expertise. And instead of doing one-on-one coaching with somebody, if you are a master electrician, maybe you could offer an online course for beginner electricians on some of the lessons you've learned, right? And you sell that online, and you sell it for $100, and you do a one-time investment of filming and the monetary cost of running that platform. You have your own website. Nobody can cancel you. Nobody can shut down your business, your online course business, if you have it on your own personal website, as long as you're paying for the domain rights, right? But if everything that you have is on YouTube, and YouTube, for whatever reason, decides to cancel your channel and you're getting monetized, then you're screwed. So you have to look at this from multiple angles of risk tolerance. What can I do to make money? What is the upfront cost? What's the risk? And what has the best risk to reward ratio that fits my personality?